like to tell you the story of Eleanor of Castile and Edward I. Their marriage was a political one. They were still children when they were married. Eleanor was 10 years old and Edward 15. After the marriage in Burgos in Spain, they came to this country where Eleanor spoke no English, Edward spoke no Spanish. It doesn't seem a good basis for a marriage. But eventually the two fell in love and became inseparable. Uniquely, Eleanor and Edward went to the Crusades where Edward was injured, and it's recorded that Eleanor nursed him back to health and probably saved his life. They came back to England, and here at Leeds, Eleanor saw this castle. She rather liked it. The then owner, called de Laban, was in debt, so it was an easy matter for the King and Queen to persuade him to sell the castle. To them, it became a royal castle. Eleanor and Edward came frequently to this castle, and it is believed that 4 of their 16 children were actually conceived here. In 1290, Eleanor died suddenly near Nottingham in the north of England. The body was taken to Westminster for interment, and on the journey, each place where the coffin rested, Edward had a cross erected. These are known as Eleanor crosses, the last one being a Charing Cross. In 1293, Edward is still mourning the loss of his wife, and he instructed the monks close to Leeds to come here to this place where he set up a chantry. Every day the monks came for 250 years, and they would stand here chanting Mass and prayers for the soul of Eleanor. After 250 years, Henry VIII dissolved the monasteries. There were no more monks, and so the prayers ceased, and eventually Henry took the money which had been left to the chantry in order to maintain it.
Henry VIII came to the throne in 1509, and he acquired Leeds Castle as part of the castles that went with the crown. He looked at it and decided that it needed work doing on it to make it a castle fit for a king, a palace for a king, rather than a medieval fortress, which it was. So he charged Sir Henry Guildford with doing that work. It had been a one-storey building in the 13th century, so he had a whole floor added that were to be the apartments for Catherine of Aragon and her ladies. He also had a lot of work done in the lower part of the castle. The banqueting hall, which he wanted to be able to dine with his whole court, had been 2, possibly 3 rooms originally, knocked into one for him. A magnificent bay window was put in that banqueting hall, and an equivalent one in Catherine's apartments above. He also had windows enlarged, and the castle's windows fully glazed. More chimneys and fireplaces were put in throughout the castle as well, so that it was a warm and comfortable place for him to be. He wanted to make sure that when he needed to be at the castle for whatever reason, he would be accommodated in the manner to which he wanted to become accustomed, because he was the king and he was Henry VIII. And so all of that work was done, but he only stayed here on one occasion.